Looky here, folks. We got a brand new vehicle. One totally designed by us. Sorry for kicking you there. And brand new things to show in this bonus video for the month. Hope you like it. This thing still looks silly. Hello everybody, Sparkster1701 here, and we're doing a bonus video this month for all of you, since this one is a special vehicle that I was able to make. We're looking at a Lego version of the FANG II. Now, most of these videos that I've done were based on blueprints and plans that I bought from G1er and his Store NV website store, but he unfortunately decided earlier last year to close it down. And I did buy up a lot of them, and you have been seeing some of those results of late. But this one is a special one because this one I built from looking over this toy. Now, I gotta give several shout outs in regards to being able to do this. First off, I've got to give a pair of shout outs to my friends Zena and Jean. They provided me with this real FANG II toy. They went the extra mile to make it totally 100% complete, and they even sent me the instructions. Which, for those of you who are not as familiar with G.I. Joe toys, they have blueprints on the back if the vehicle was real. So we will be referring to some of this as we do our review. Plus, I also want to give a shout out to my good buddy Andrew, who suggested a while back on one of HCC 788's watch parties, excuse me, almost said podcast, and that's not the right way to put it. But at any rate, he had at one time suggested that I should have the real vehicle next to the Lego one to do a comparison between the two. And like I said, since most of them I build from somebody else's instructions, that's not always possible. But we have a rare opportunity this time. So, thank you again to everyone for your suggestions. Now, the FANG II was released back in 1989, and as you can see, mine's pretty close to how the original toy was done. The biggest difference is the fact that I don't have the wings, the sport wings here on the front of the Lego one, sloped like they are here on the original toy. I found that would have been a little difficult to get it to look right. And of course, otherwise, the other big change to it is the rotor blades themselves. As you can see on the original toy, they were in red, whereas the ones I have are black. And the reason for that is Lego does not make rotor blades like this in red. So I went with black, so it would still work with the color scheme. I know some of you are probably out there saying that you could just paint them red. And while that's true, it would also mean more maintenance to make sure that the paint doesn't rub off. And I'm a bit lazy, so we will just leave it be as it is. Now, side by side, you can see the Lego one is a little smaller than the original, but this one's also built for a different scale, as mine only holds Lego minifigures, and the original FANG II holds 3 3/4 inch action figures. But all in all, it is still a nice rendition of the toy. The only other thing that's lacking is the action feature. On the FANG II, you could rotate this knob right here, and as you would see, it would rotate the engines and the rotors into a position. course, with time and play wear, as you can see, mine doesn't want to keep them in an upward position. Now, while I couldn't exactly duplicate the motion, the mechanism for it, I do have them strapped on with a Technic pin so that they can be rotated. The only downside is you have to rotate each one independently. But all in all, that's still a good look for it. Now, the Fang II is basically a successor model to this version of the Fang. This version came out in 1983. Fang was also an acronym when the first toy was released. It stood for Fully Armed Negator Gyrocopter. Even though when one looks at it, it's not exactly a gyrocopter. A gyrocopter takes off differently from a traditional helicopter, which uses the large rotor blade to get up in the air, and it would use this counter-rotating blade that would prevent the whole unit from spinning wildly. A gyrocopter uses a different engine, sort of like this one here on the Fang, to provide forward thrust, and as it's doing so, the upper rotor blades will spin, giving it its lift. A good example that many of you can see of a gyrocopter in action is the James Bond film You Only Live Twice, where the gyrocopter Little Nellie was taken by 007 to fly around Blofeld's headquarters. It's an interesting sight. Now, the Fang II, however, is a rotary tilt helicopter, which means that its engine, that the rotors are mounted in such a way that they not only provide the vertical lift, but then they can be rotated forward to help provide the thrust it needs. Which would mean that it takes off and lands very similar to a normal helicopter. Now we'll take a look at some of the features here on this, because as you can see, the weapon load is a little different on the Fang II. Which, by the way, when I mentioned of the acronym earlier, this one, strangely, as you can see there, it does not use Fang as an acronym. My best guess is that since in '89, when this toy was released, Cobra was also getting an updated version of its HISS tank. And while it still resembled the original one, I'm guessing the HISS 2 was being designed first, and when somebody saw that they were making a new helicopter for Cobra, somebody decided that it should be called the Fang II, even though it bears little resemblance to the original Fang. Now, the Fang comes armed with this gun, which the blueprints call a 20mm secto-barrel impulse long-range cannon. Like on the original toy, it can rotate 360 degrees, and it does have its own independent hinge that allows it to swivel. Although I will admit the Lego version here does have more range of motion, but that's just due to how I chose to design it. And it is armed with 6 missiles, these little red protrusions all over it. And those are apparently AIM-Z-33 air-to-air Crusher missiles. So, it's definitely a change from the original Fang, which did have a machine gun at the front, or some media says it's a grenade launcher. But it also has 4 missiles, and on the underside, it carried a bomb. So, in some ways, the original Fang was better armed. Now, a few other features on this Fang would include the aerodynamic multi-operational rear stabilizers here. And supposedly it's got an antenna built into this area here, where they say it's a low visibility ultra sensitive signal intensifier antenna. They like to put a lot of big words on this. And it has dual tri-blade turbofan rotors, which, as you can see, I can knock off with relative ease. I think I should add a couple of slope pieces here to help support and hold them down, but that's a minor thing. Now we need a pilot for this little guy. Now, the box art in 1989 showed it with a generic Heat Viper trooper as its pilot. Which, of course, a Heat Viper is basically an anti-tank trooper, so I'm guessing they just put him in since he came out that same year, too. But, you look here at my Fang 1, I have version 1 of Cobra Commander. So, what would be appropriate for this one? Version 2 of Cobra Commander. This is a custom figure I did myself. And while he doesn't have a Cobra symbol on his chest, mainly because I can't draw worth any amount of beans, nor will I try to paint it. I just haven't had time to work out a way to make a sticker for it, but this is basically intended to be the hooded version of Cobra Commander. The mail-away action figure. I mean, yeah, that one over there was a mail-away in 1982, but in 83, or if you bought the missile command base from Sears, you could get him at retail. This one was never at retail. He was always a mail-away. And there's a lot of people that give it grief due to the hood on there. It's not a clan hood, it's been described in some lore as an executioner's hood, and that's kind of what I went with here. This is an executioner's hood, custom built by Brick Warriors. They sell it in 3 colors, but they got no issues with you painting over it if you want it in a different color, because I did buy this in white and I painted it in the dark blue. And much to my surprise, it blends in very well with the Lego body. And he has a Star Wars heavy blaster pistol made by Brick Arms to represent his Venom laser pistol. Just move his arms up, bend his legs, and in he goes. And now Cobra Commander is ready to take to the skies. Although, given the fact that there's really nothing to protect him from directly being shot, somehow I don't think he's going to stay in there very long. At any rate, that's my review of a Lego-built Fang II. I hope all of you enjoyed it. Once again, a special thanks to Xena, Jean, and Andrew for their help in contributing to this video. This is Sparkster1701, hoping that you'll all continue to enjoy the LEGO G.I. Joe builds for this month. If you got some more you'd like to see, throw them out in the comments, and I'll see if I can arrange it. Until then, I'll catch you all later.